growing up, the worst thing you could say to a boy in the playground is, "You're a gay lord," you know, "You're a queer," like kind of that was, they were destroyed, like, you know, you know, to say that someone was gay, that was the end of their life.
Yeah.
Then you fast forward 20 years into the future, and the writer Russell T Davies writes first of all Queer as Folk, and then takes over Doctor Who, and writes into Doctor Who this brilliant swashbuckling bisexual superhero, Captain Jack Harkness, who in one episode kisses the Doctor on primetime TV. And not only are there no letters of complaint to the BBC about this, but when I go to my daughter's school on Monday morning, there are boys in the playground fighting to play this bisexual character. Because we've now got a story, we've now got a character, like, you know, instead of just it being the word gay, we've got this hero that everybody wants to be. And I can draw a direct line between that show and that character, and then passing the Equal Marriage Act in this country. Because when you've got children in a playground who are fine with bisexuality and see all love as equal, you know, their fathers and grandfathers are in Parliament can't go, "Well, we don't believe in this." You know, your children have shamed you. Culture is there to show you possible futures. And again, that's why it's so important to make sure that you've got all these different voices. And particularly, you know, if you possibly can, to tell an optimistic story, show us a better future. Show us something, show me amazing people do amazing things. Because that's what children are watching and going, yeah, that's going to be my future. I believe in that.
It's really interesting, since doing my work with UN Women and since just becoming more involved in this movement generally. People have said, "Well, are you going to give up now? Do you not want to act anymore? Are you not going to be an actress?" And if anything, I think it's actually reinstilled my passion for what I do and made it more important.
Well, the other key thing about culture is, again, kind of like, if you want to change the world, you can argue all day that something's right or wrong. You can you can say women should be equal to men. We should see women, you know, in films equally to men, living the incredible stories and, you know, and solving their problems. You can argue that forever, but that argument can go on forever, and there's no real way of resolving it. Or you can make the right thing cool. And you can just simply show me an amazing woman. Like that, and that's what culture does time and time again. It doesn't argue. You know, David Bowie could have spent, you know, all of his life writing academic treatises and lobbying Parliament, going, you know, bisexuality and gay men who are pretending to be aliens should be accepted in society. It wouldn't have gone very far. Instead, he dresses like a gay alien and writes Life on Mars, and suddenly everyone's like, "I want to be a gay alien."
That's genius.
Culture wins. It's faster and it's more fun, because there's the whole thing about change and the revolution of feminism, and, you know, all these things, you know, we were talking about, you know, anti-racism and equality and the trans movement and stuff. It doesn't need to be worthy and like eating your fibre and your brown bread, you know, and eating your vitamins. The future should be fun, a more inclusive future where people are free to love and are not scared.
Awesome and cool.
Should be amazing. That should be a party you want to join. We shouldn't be having to go, "This would be the right thing to do." We should just be going, "This is where you want to be, man."
So Jenny wants to know, in chapter 7, I encountered some sexism. You make a point about the possible reasons why women didn't have a great role in human history. How did you come to these conclusions? What enlightened you?
When you're taught history at school and you look at the history of women as is depicted time and time, you know, our accepted story of humanity is generally the story of men. We tend to only hear about what men did. I've learned a bit more since I wrote that book, because that was 5 years ago. I had just presumed that women weren't doing anything, and that was primarily because we were giving birth or having raging cystitis that we were going to have to wait 400 years before they invented antibiotics to cure. And the combination of those two things was why we didn't discover America. That and the very uncomfortable skirts and underwear that we were wearing. But since then, I've learned a lot more about female history, and I particularly watched, I know that you've seen it as well, that show, The Ascent of Woman by Dr. Amanda Foreman, who is such an amazing
major babe.
And she did the brilliant thing. It was an answer to, so the biggest BBC documentary previously about the history of the humankind was The History of Mankind, and it was Civilization by Dr. Alan Clark, and that is just the history of men. And so what Dr. Amanda Foreman has done is gone, okay, let's have a look at the history of women. And it is one of the most mind-blowing programs I've ever seen, because she's done all of her history and all of her research, and she tells an extraordinary story which tells us that at one point men and women probably were equal. It's in prehistory, so we don't know, but we have to presume there was more equality, because we can start to see from 10,000 BC onwards laws coming in that are against women. And the only reason they'd be having to write down these new laws is presumably because they didn't exist before. So you can see sexism being constructed. You can see gradually women's rights being taken away from them, being prescribed what women should do, the shutdown of women in society, then being hedged out of activity and being shut down. And to watch that, I just genuinely believe it should be on the curriculum. I think every man and woman should watch it, because so many of these things that we experience as emotions, like women can't do these things, women can't rule a city, you know, we are inferior, we haven't done anything.
Yeah.
Once you watch that show, it's like, no, we were trying all the time. Because the other great thing she does, even though she's showing you all the ways that women were shut down, she's showing you time and time again these women that flourished, these women that did educate themselves, these women that did rule, these women that did try and change things, these women who did try to connect with each other. And it's simultaneously incredibly depressing and incredibly uplifting, but at the end of it, you just feel, you know, you feel woke, you feel informed as to what it is to be a woman and what has gone before us.
Yeah, totally. And again, it's that thing about needing to see something before you can even, know somewhere inside yourself that it's possible. And I think knowing that as a civilization we have found a way to do this, to live in harmony and inequality, and knowing that that's something that has existed and that we could potentially get back to is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's an amazing show. I think it's on Netflix now,
yes,
like kind of, so it is available, and like I would genuinely, everyone that I have made watch it, and I have made everybody I know watch it, has just come around the next week and just gone, it blows your mind. You genuinely feel a new part of your mind.
I tried to harass the BBC to put it back on iPlayer, but didn't succeed with that. But Netflix has covered it now, so it's
well done, Netflix. Netflix for the chicks.
Celeste wants to know, I thought her argument that many religions were created in a time where women were considered second-class citizens was very important, and wonder what a religion made by women would look like in her mind.
Well, this is the great thing, like kind of one of the things that I'm working on now is trying to, sort of for one of the next books I'm going to write is imagining that. I mean,
because this is a three-parter, isn't it? No.
They're probably, I mean, you know what, I'm never going to stop writing. I'm always going to come up with ideas, but this is basically dealing with politics, and the next thing that I want to do deals with religion.
Okay.
Definitely.
Amazing.
Yeah, which would be fun. And and so some people, it's still, you always worry you're going to anger people, but you do have to remind people that religions were invented by people. Like, some people haven't thought of that, but these things were invented. So all these things that are, religious rights that we think must happen. Things that when you talk about FGM and people are going, it's a custom.
Yeah.
It's like, so it was invented by someone.
Yeah. So
it can be uninvented by someone. You have to remember that these are things that we have invented. And when you look at so much of what's in religion, it's almost like a little kind of how to survive guidebook. When it's things like don't eat pork and shellfish. That's because they lived in a hot place and those were the things that went off quickest. And that would kill you. You would get food poisoning. And so again, the way they're writing about women, you have to remember that this is just what people thought at the time.
Yeah.
And so the idea of if we invented a religion from scratch now, what would it be? That fascinates me. If I was a teacher, I'd be in schools, I'd make, and if I was a religious teacher, I'd go, okay, we're going to invent a religion today, and it's going to be, let's see what would happen. What would you kids invent today if you invented a religion? And, and you made sure that it was female friendly, it was about equality. To see what kids would invent would really fascinate me. It'd be amazing.